are you right now?
Tons of snow.
Are you in Buffalo?
Yes, I am.
just about everybody's nap time. Going here? Is that working? You hear me? I need to turn that volume up. Good evening and welcome. Welcome to our 231st meeting. Are there any new members here tonight? Very good. You want to stand up and say who you are and what you do? And
Name's John Marsh.
good, welcome. Okay, any other new members? Yes. Very good. Welcome. Welcome. Okay, 3 new members. That's great. Are there any visitors here tonight? Well, we'd convert you to a member anyway, so there you are. Okay, be sure and check out the free table. And I'd like to remind you, if you have any photography equipment that you're no longer using and would like to get rid of, donate it to the club, and we have our auctions. We did quite well this year. We had, I think, 4 very successful auctions. We find a new home for the gear that you don't need anymore and somebody else can use it. And sometimes we get it back a couple of years later and auction it off again. So it keeps getting used. I will remind you about the F3C 2026 conference. I think you'll hear more about it tonight. If you're a DPI-SIG member, when you get your ticket, be sure to indicate your DPI-SIG and you get a $29 discount on the ticket, which the club then makes up for that. We want to thank Barry, I got the wrong name here, Gary from Hunt's Photo and Video, providing Jerry Jones for our speaker tonight. And at the end of the meeting, we'll have 8 door prizes. So Marcel, you want to take over? Thank you.
Hello, hello. My name is Marcel Samples for you new members. I'm half French, half Greek. We recently did an outing to Tarpon Springs and they wouldn't let us in, but I showed them my Greek passport, so then they allowed us in. If you haven't been to Tarpon Springs, it's a great fun place to go. And you can get some nice photographs up that way. And just about everybody you meet is Greek. Not 100%, but pretty close, pretty close. Anyway, okay, you'll be seeing some of our photographs from that trip, that outing that we did this evening. We've got a slideshow for you. Okay, first up, Art David, DPI-SIG Photo Year of the Award.
Good evening. I'm very pleased to announce the winner of the Photo of the Year Award. Sue Christensen. Sue, where are you? I know you're here. There you go. There were over 500 photos during the course of the year, and Sue's was the top. I'd like to present this award to you as the DPI-SIG Photo of the Year. Senor? Hit it.
There it is, right there.
The next one. There we go. This is what you see. Right? Thank you.
Right, next up, Charles Flume. 3 smartphone tips. I'm looking forward to that.
First of all, I want to apologize for last month because I didn't show up for the smartphone SIG. There was a reason for it. The next day, I flew out to Southeast Asia and I just totally forgot. And this month, there won't be one because I've got a party next Tuesday. So there won't be a smartphone SIG this month. It'll be next month for it. But as far as tips, whether you're using Android or an iPhone, make sure you're always using the best quality that you can. Look at the settings in your phone for making sure that it's raw. Make sure you're using the highest number of megapixels as well, just like you know with your regular camera. Particularly the iPhone, I know the iPhone much better than the Android. It's very good with low light, but just like your SLR, you need to stabilize it. So either a small tripod, put it on something to hold it. The other thing is, again, like your SLR, touching the shutter can shake it. There is a self-timer in them, so use the self-timer so that you don't shake it. Third, everybody has a native camera app on the phone. Go to the store, the Google Play or the App Store, the iPhone store, and take a look at all the different apps that there are that are cameras. A lot of them are free. A lot of them give you a lot more flexibility as to what you can do with your phone. One other thing which I've mentioned before, but I want to mention again because I think it's just such a cool app, is called Local Send. This works with any combination of Android and Mac or an iPhone and a PC. What Local Send does is you put the app on your computer, put it on your phone, make sure they're both on the same Wi-Fi, and you can send documents, you can send photos back and forth. And it doesn't matter whether it's Apple-based or PC-based or what. It will allow you to move things very easily. Because previous to this, I know it's been very, very hard to get stuff from an iPhone onto a PC. This makes it simple. Questions? Local Send, it's called. Local Send. Yes. Right. You go into settings, go into your camera, And within there, it tells you, you can do the settings within there. You'll just look at the listing. Yeah. Well, one of the fabulous things about Apple is pick up the phone and call them and ask. Okay, thank you.
All right, the next presentation we have is the power of imagery to push your boundaries. And we have a very special guest tonight via Zoom. You see her there, Jerry Jones. So welcome, Jerry Jones.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for coming on tonight. A little bit about Hunt's Photo. If you don't know about Hunt's Photo, we're a camera store. We're based in Massachusetts. We ship all over the country. I've tried my hardest to support DPI for the last 6, 7, 8 years and try to be very supportive of you guys. So if you guys are looking for anything or need any equipment or need any gear, I'll put my information down in the chat. Reach out to me and at least give me the shot at the business. I really strive to provide the personalized service, the personal touch, and be there for you guys at all levels. I don't call myself a salesperson. I call myself more helping other community, being there for community and serves you guys, and helping you guys out at all levels and trying to provide the old-fashioned customer service that you really can't get in today's industry. So if you guys are looking need anything, reach out to me, send me an email. I'd be more than happy to help you out. Hunts does a lot of education now as well. If you look at our website, it's called Hunt EDU. We have over 200 different photography classes, workshops, trips around the country, around the world now. We really built it up during COVID, so you can check everything that Hunts is doing on our website. If you're ever traveling to New England, we also do rentals now. So you're looking to rent a lens, if you're traveling to New England, you can rent in one of our 9 stores that we have now. So that's a little bit also what I do. But really, if you need anything, reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to help you out and take care of you and provide the best customer service that I can provide you. So that's about me. You're not here for me, you're here for Jerry. But I've known Jerry for about I don't know how long we've known each other, Jerry.
Probably, I don't know, 8 years or more.
Yeah.
Um,
So she's
wow.
yeah, I actually met her through Niagara Falls Camel Club. We went back then. I used to support it back when they had a conference and go down and have a table there and support all the speakers and sponsors. And that's what I met her. And since that time, we have developed a really close and lovely working relationship and friendship. She's done many programs for clubs around the country and have been very well received. And I'm honored to bring Jerry tonight, and I'm honored to have this friendship and relationship with Jerry. And she's a really fine, great speaker. So I'll turn it over to her. And if you have any questions, you can Jerry will answer them at the end. So thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, Gary. Okay, are you guys ready? Should I share my screen? Okay, let me see. Okay, I just want to mention, Gary, I've been in touch with Emily at Hunt's, and I'm supposed to be doing a program for them maybe sometime in April.
Oh, nice.
That it's one on glass refraction. So she talked to me a couple weeks ago, and we're setting a tentative date, so that'll be nice. Okay, let me see here what I want to show. Small active speaker. Let me just see what I can do to get this. Hide floating meeting control. Good, got it. Okay, so I'm really happy to be here tonight. Thank you, Gary, for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, I've known Gary for a long time. He is really good with the camera clubs. If I ever need anything, in fact, I just called him about 5 months ago, and I got my first mirrorless camera from them, and it's working out great. Any questions I have, anything, I can always call him and get information, which is nice having that kind of service. So yeah, I love Hunts. So This is an presentation that I've done. Actually, it's getting more and more requested from different camera clubs. It's not so much a how-to. There'll be a little bit of that in here, but it's more on creativity, and you can see the list there: expectations, rules, breaking the rules, perfection in our photography. How do we get joy? How do we get joy in our photography? Inspiration, ideas, and then your personal journey. So I hope to inspire you a little bit to maybe try something a little bit different. I am a Lens Baby trailblazer. So I represent the company. There's 25 of us in the world actually, and I'm one of 25. So we just had our first big conference this past weekend. It was really fabulous, a lot of fun. So you will see a lot of images in here by Lens Baby with Lens Babies that I've taken. Another thing that I use are a lot of vintage lenses. Now, I don't want you to think that I don't use regular, autofocus lenses, because I do. And I'll have some of that in here too. But as far as my personal journey with photography, Lens Baby has pushed me to be more creative. I feel like a lot of us always get into some sort of creative rut during the year, or you have times where you just feel like, I'm just not creating the images that I want to. And so they have helped me kind of get out of that creative rut when I start to feel that way. And I think no matter who you are, you end up feeling a little bit of that, because everyone's got a camera nowadays. Everyone's got a cell phone. So everyone's creating. And how do you put yourself in that crowd of people to create something a little bit different or something that's meaningful to you? And so that's kind of what this is about. And also, I'm going to talk about camera clubs a little bit. What's been my journey with them? I've been a member of 2 camera clubs here in Buffalo. I live in Buffalo. Forgot to mention that. Go Bills. Um, so Bills fan my whole life. Come on. So in winter, that's about all we have to grab onto, So if we keep winning, we're just happy as heck to have some pizza, wings, and watch the Bills. So let me get going here. Okay, so I'm going to have a few quotes by some photographers that resonate with me, and some of them are very old photographers, like turn of the century. Some are newer. Some you may recognize the names, some you may not. So, but this is a question: that how do we strive to be creative as we learn to navigate expectations of rules in the photographic world? And these are just a few observations which help me decide where I draw the most joy and creativity with my camera. Because if you're a person that enters a lot of competitions, and I have given a lot of camera club presentations, and they're all a little bit different in how they handle competitions. I've even judged for some. So when I speak about camera clubs, mostly I'm going to refer to the ones here, how they have made me feel, think, and maybe navigate a little bit differently. I find a lot of people join camera clubs to learn, obviously, to have camaraderie, which is great. Go out on shoots together, all that wonderful stuff that's so great. And then learning as well. The competition part, I find, can sort of it depending on your club and how the type of creativity that you go for in your club. In the 2 clubs that I've belonged to, I'm seeing it start to finally change, and I'm happy about that. But I have always felt that we have the same judges over and over and over in our club. in our area. So we've got 3 clubs in the Buffalo area, and then there's some right across the border in Niagara Falls. So we're kind of in an umbrella of all of us together as a regional club, but the 3 here in Buffalo, we have kind of the same number of judges that go from club to club to club and join that are judging. And for me, because they all sort of judge the same way, I find it not helpful sometimes, especially if you're a person that likes to be a little more creative, like, for example, using lens babies, using a lot of blur, using selective focus, or what's gotten really popular now is something called ICM, which is in camera motion, or double exposures, and all of those creative things that you can do with your camera. I think they're finally starting to embrace it now, and I love that. But for a long time, most of our judges wanted everything to be sharp from front to back, corner to corner, and that is how they judged, a high quality image for them. If something looked like what you're seeing here, it probably wasn't going to score very good. How I took this, I was at the Botanical Gardens. I had my long 150 millimeter macro manual focus lens. It's called an IRIX. And the reason I got that is because got that lens about 5 years ago, because none of the camera companies were making long macro lenses anymore. They were like, the longest you could get was maybe a 105. And at one time I shoot Nikon, they had a 200 millimeter macro lens, very expensive. I mean, I couldn't have afforded it. I would have loved to have it, but it was autofocus and everything. This is an all manual focus. And when I got that lens, I got it for a couple reasons. To shoot something like this, we have a koi pond. I'm standing up on a bridge within the Botanic Garden. There's a giant glass dome over the top of the Botanical Garden, and it is reflecting all of this light that you see onto the pond. The pond's kind of a dark blue color. And although the fish are in motion a little bit, not really that much, but it looks like they are sort of distorted and everything. And that comes from the reflections of the glass dome onto the water. And that's what caused that particular look in this image, this sort of abstract feel. And for me, when I saw that on the back of my camera, I was just thrilled. I just absolutely loved it. I've had a couple people tell me they thought it looked like robot fish. And it does have a really strange look, kind of otherworldly. But it was basically the reflections of that glass onto the pond that gave it that distorted movement and look. And I had my long macro lens, so I was able to reach down. I'm overhead standing on a bridge down towards the water and get a close-up of them moving in the water. So that's another reason I like a long macro, and I do a lot of garden photography, so it reaches into the garden. So I like that as well. So when we first decide to go beyond taking snapshots with our cameras, we usually strive to follow the rules we are taught, which comprise making a quote, and I put that in quote, good photograph. So when I first joined Camera Club, that was all I would hear from the judges when they were judging. This is a good photograph. This is what they would point out, what makes a good photograph. The horizon line needs to be straight. All those things we kind of know, the rule of thirds, and all of these things, and to them that meant excellence. They never kind of went out of the boundaries. So, and I'm a little bit experimental, so I would tend to, in my head, disagree sometimes with what they were saying. But I understand the basis of learning those rules. I think it's a good thing to know, because I think learning them allows you to sort of go beyond and maybe break them. So, and this was taken with my Velvet 56. If I would have put that for competition, I can tell you right now, it would not have done well 8 years ago when I shot that image. it was, that mushroom is not even more than maybe an inch and a half. It was in my grass, and that lens has a macro setting. Plus I had an extension tube on it, and I'm actually physically laying in the grass, and it was early in the morning when all the dew was on the grass. So my thought was I wanted that water drop in focus. And the Lens Baby Velvet lens is not what some people would consider a sharp lens. It's sharp in the fact that what it does is it gives you a velvet glow, and you can see that glow if you look around the edges of the mushroom and the image itself. You can see that glow, and how you control that glow is with your f-stop. The wider open it is, the more glow you get. The more you stop it down to say like f5, 6 or beyond, you get a mixture, an equation of glow and sharpness. There's always underlying sharpness, but that glow is always there. So that would be something that our judges would have said, well, this is out of focus. You know, it wouldn't resonate with them. They wouldn't give that a good score. Now, when I judge, the first thing for me, when I see an image, the very first thing, I don't look necessarily at the rule of thirds, how sharp it is. I look at an image and I say to myself, how does that image make me feel? Whether, I don't care what the subject is, how does it make me feel? How does it resonate with me? What feeling do I get? So that's my thought when I'm judging. So this is Edward Weston. I'm sure you all recognize his name, a very old photographer, not with us anymore. But one of the things he said is, quote, to consult the rules of composition before making a picture is a little like consulting the law of gravitation before going for a walk. And I love that quote because that's kind of how I feel when I go out and decide I'm going to shoot for the day or shoot a particular subject or whatever. You know, if I have to sit and think about all the rules and all of the stuff that's in my head that I should make it look right, then I'm not really going to get that image that I really want that lets me feel a certain way. So, and that's, I think, what he means when you go out for a walk, you're not constantly thinking about the rules of gravitation. When you're on your walk, you're looking around and seeing what nature is giving you on that walk, how it's making you feel. So that's why I really resonated with that particular quote. And I've got, if you look at my images here, I've got the lens that I used annotated near the bottom somewhere, so I won't repeat them all. But so this particular image, though, was taken in Buffalo, actually in North Tonawanda or Tonawanda. It's a bridge that connects Grand Island to Niagara Falls. We have an island here called Grand Island. It's fairly large. It's really, really pretty over there. So this is the South Grand Island Bridge. It's actually been in a couple movies that have been made in the past 5 years. We had movie directors here with sets shooting on that bridge for certain scenes. But anyway, this is one of my favorite spots. So I took this with the Lens Baby Velvet 28, actually when I was beta testing it. And it's still on their website all these years. That was at least 5 years ago. And I guess they like the image because they still have it highlighted for the Velvet 28. And I love that image. I've taken it with my regular autofocus lens. I can't count the times. I've taken it with other Lens Babies, but that's my very favorite image because of the glow that it gave to the sunset, the glow in the water. I probably shot that at about f5 or f5.6 on my Velvet 28, which is the widest lens. So I have a question for you all. The best teacher is, and you can all kind of think about that as I'm talking here. Who has been the best teacher for you? Who's taught you the most? Who influenced you the most? You know, when did you get that aha moment that someone was teaching you and it just kind of resonated with you and you thought, aha, now I understand this, I get this. You know, who do you think your best teacher is? And I am going to tell you who I think, even though I don't know any of you personally, I might know some of you, but I'm going to tell you who I think one of your best teachers is, and that is you. You are the best teacher that you can be, that you could have. And the reason I say that is because that I've had people that have influenced me, and I've been photographing since digital since about 2004. I got my first camera, and all along the way, there's many people that have influenced me. Brian Peterson is probably one of the biggest, who's no longer with us, one of the best teachers. Online, he would always give you tips. I've got so many of his books. But in the end, I'm the person that needed to test it out and do it and figure it out with the information that he gave me. So I say the best teacher is you. And so also the challenges are the opportunity for growth. So all the mistakes that you ever make, you build on that and you end up teaching yourself with each aha moment in small steps. And that's how I feel I've learned. I've practiced, and then all of a sudden something just kind of goes ding, and then I get it, and I kind of go from there. So I'm going to talk a little bit as I get toward the end of my presentation about this book. I don't know if you can see it here. It's my background kind of does this funky thing, but it's called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. If you don't have that book, it's like a book that costs $10. Get it from the library, get it from Amazon. I think it's an inspirational book for me. I love it. I've read it over it, or you can read it in about less than an hour. But I love all his ideas, and it's not just for photographers, it's for artists, it's for anyone that where he explains where do ideas come from. And I totally resonate with this book. I absolutely love it. So I would recommend you read that book. I would say keep a journal of your inspirational ideas. I started keeping a journal probably 8 years ago. I have a couple journals filled now, including my half-assed ideas that you see there. I bought that book and brought it home and showed it to my husband, and he said, well, you're gonna fill that book up pretty darn fast. Because he always tells me I have half-assed ideas, especially when we're talking football. Why can't they just take the ball and do this? And he just laughs. But anyway, so get a book and keep your ideas in it. And it can be anything, something you're inspired that you see, something, oh yeah, I meant to try that. Or an artist that you want to follow, or look into their work and see if you can get some inspiration. It could be anything, but write your ideas down. Austin talks about that in his book as well. So, and then of course, follow other photographers. I'm on Instagram. I follow a lot of hubs on Instagram and photographers, and I like Instagram for that reason, because I can find artists, photographers that like to shoot the same things I do, all in one area, and I can see all of their work, and it's very inspiring. And I'm going to get to that a little bit later about following people, and he talks about that a lot in this book, Austin Kleon, too. For me in particular, I do a lot of still life. So I love going to museums. I like Dutch masters. I love going online and looking at the Met. I can go online and check out the Met, Metropolitan Museum of Art. I can look at artists' paintings from whenever, and I love the Dutch masters. They paint things that I love, whether it be portraits. It's the lighting. And I try to do a little bit of that with my still life. So they have inspired me. And then one thing I say that's kind of fun to do is study an image you admire. And maybe you don't understand how the person took it, the photographer, but see if you can kind of deconstruct the photographic ideas that person might have used based on the concepts you already know. So that could be whether it's in camera or post-processing. I think it's kind of a fun thing to do. And the reason I say that is I like to share what I've learned. If you go on my Instagram hub and I post an image by Lens Baby or whatever else, I tend to put a small explanation of how I did it. Or if anyone wants to know, they can contact me and I'll give them a more extended information. And there are some photographers over the years that maybe aren't as willing to share their how-tos. And I can understand that everyone's different. That may be how they make their living, and they don't want to give away all their secrets. For me, I'm don't feel that way. I feel the more we all share with one another and learn from one another, the better we have a community and keep it going. So this is kind of one of the first still lifes that I ever took, and to me that was inspired kind of like by a Dutch master painting. And that's another reason that I love lens babies. My velvet lenses, especially my 56, I use a lot for my still life, and they allow you to, with that glow and that equation that you use with your f-stop and the amount of glow you want and the amount of detail, you can change it with all of that. It allows you to almost paint your image with your camera. So that's the other reason I love those lenses. They make my photography a little bit different and my still life a little bit different. So I'm going to read this at the top, but I say there is no argument that learning the relationship of technical exposure settings and proper rules for composition are a good foundation for creating a compelling photograph. Back to the judging, back to the camera clubs. But knowing the rules can also give you permission to break them. Unlike film, digital cameras have given us way more freedom to experiment. But it's been my experience they also can let you maybe obsess about perfectionism, because I know a lot of people that are pixel peepers. They've got their images at 100%, 150%, looking for every single flaw to make sure it's perfect. And I did do that at one time too, and I don't do it anymore. I rarely look at my images at 100%. I mean, if I'm post-processing and I'm looking for noise and that sort of thing, I will. But I take a step back and look at them, not magnified like that, because I think if you start obsessing about perfectionism, it can sort of hold you up in how creative you want to be, because nothing is perfect. And there is an example of that here. Does perfection exist in nature anywhere in the world? So I embrace imperfection sometimes in flowers, which are alive things in nature. So I don't always choose a perfect specimen. I try to look for one that is, but sometimes I don't. And if you see this butterfly here, I was with a friend. We were in one of the wildlife refuges a couple years ago, and it was the time when the monarchs were all heading south. And there were, like, seriously, in this one patch of flowers that you see here, it was quite a large patch. There had to be at least probably, I don't know, 80 monarchs in there. And I was taking pictures of tons of them. I had my 70 to 200 millimeter Tamron lens. And so I could reach into there and get a nice, blurred background with that lens when it's fairly wide open. But that when I got home and looked at my images, that was the one that resonated to me. And that's because to me, it tells a story. I see all these perfect specimens there of monarchs, but that one made me wonder, is that monarch going to make it on that whatever 1,000-mile journey or whatever it is that they fly to? I hope that it does. I pray that it does, but its wings are damaged. And is that going to keep it from reaching its destination? And that told me a story. It gave me a feeling. And so for me, that's the type of thing that I will, seek out if I see it, and not everything has to be perfect in our world. Sometimes perfection is very overrated. I like to shoot in the winter. What you see here in the middle were taken with one of my lens babies that give you a selective blur and selective focus in one spot. You create that with the optic. You can move it around to the spot that you want it to get the sharpness and let the blur kind of just wash over your image. And this may not be your thing, or you may not, it may not resonate with you, but I can tell you this. Me having used these lenses, everything is all manual, completely all manual. You're not even in your EXIF. You are not going to get the aperture. It's going to tell you what your shutter speed and your ISO are, but it's not going to give you your aperture. So it's all set on the outside of your lens, not within your camera, and that's why. But what it has taught me to do is slow down. And once I started doing that when I'm out in the field, especially in nature, that I think changed the way I feel about photography in general, that I don't always have to hurry up and get the shot, that maybe it's the time I spend out in nature that's the gift. Maybe what it's telling me is to take notice of every little thing, and when I see a flower, really look at it, spend some time looking at it, take an image from all sides, use a different lens that's going to give me a little bit different color and bokeh, embrace the light that's coming through, and all of these things that honestly, before I ever started using these lenses or going totally all manual, they didn't jump out at me. I was, using an autofocus lens, going for one area, trying to autofocus on that or a landscape, and maybe not slowing down as much. So for me, that's been the gift for these lenses. They're very playful. So when I feel a creative rut, I'm always going to grab one of those and I'm going to go out and play. And it doesn't really even matter to me whether I get a keeper or not. It's the journey. It's being out there and discovering. And that's why I love them so much. So even if you don't have a lens, baby, and you have a lens, any lens, you can put it in all macro or all manual mode and shoot with it. Try it sometime. And it will force you to slow down and really look at things. So that's my love of photography. And it has taught me a lot about light, composition, more than I ever knew before I started using them, because I had to slow down and really look and see. So when our goal is to create the perfect image, we miss the opportunity to create the perfect mess. That's my quote. So some of you may look at that image and say, well, it is messy. It is kind of, but it was taken with my Lens Baby double glass optic. And in that optic, they have the ability with a little magnetic thing that, let me see if you can see this little disc here. They have all these creative little discs that have different shapes. There's a star shape. The shape that you see in the bokeh here is kind of a swirly, kind of curly Q. I call it the cinnamon bun because I'm obsessed with cinnamon buns. But yeah, so it looks like a frosted cinnamon bun to me. So what that does is it grabs the bokeh, the light in your image, and it turns it into that shape. So, and then it's very selective focus, where it's in the middle on just that, mostly that leaf you see curving down to the bottom, and the rest of it is all going into blur and adding all of the swirliness and yumminess with light. So taking or making a photograph, is there a difference? Is there a difference between taking and making a photograph? I think there is. I think making is the way I feel I want to make my photographs. So how can our work be evaluated in terms of creativity if a judge is only looking for images that follow a guideline of strict rules? So the idea of how does this image make me feel is often left out of the equation, and that goes back to what I was saying when I judge images. But I don't want you to think that I only take blurry, funky images that I love doing when I'm out in the field. If I want to shoot sharp, I can. So is this sharp enough? And that did very well, by the way, in competition. I got the highest score and I entered it in a regional competition. It got a super high. It was one of the finalists. In fact, I think it was a finalist, the final winner in our regional competition here. So I shot that indoors in the winter with window light, and I had a piece of black velvet behind it. So the light, and you can see where the light is coming from. It's coming in from the right side, kind of towards the back, and illuminating the right kind of backside of this orchid. And that reason I I have shot that also with a Lens Baby, but I'm being honest, that particular orchid I really do like really sharp. And that's because it's very complex. It's got petals shooting out from every which way. It's got buds coming on from the stem. So for me to shoot that with a Lens Baby, I would either have to go very blurry. I'd probably use my twist lens and get a lot of twistiness in it. But shooting it with my regular Tamron 90mm lens at f/36, which I probably didn't even need to do, probably f/20 would have been good enough because I focus stacked. I took 5 images and I focus stacked it and in Photoshop. So I wanted all those little hairy things to show. So yeah, I do shoot sharp in images. They're not as fun for me though, I'm going to be honest. It's very kind of regimental. Put it on a tripod, do manual focus, go for when you're focus stacking from front to back, taking one image, refocus, go a little bit further back, refocus, go a little bit further back till you have 5 images, bring it up into Photoshop, and then put it all together. Let Photoshop put it all together as one image, focus stacking it. Yeah, it's pretty, it's in focus, but the actual creativity for me to shoot it wasn't really there, not with some of the other images that I shoot, but I do love it. So there's nothing worse, this is Ansel Adams, there is nothing worse than a sharp image of a fuzzy concept. So I'll let you think about that and see what you think it means to you. I know what it means to me. So these are just a couple images. They were both shot indoors. I'm going to be working with Mike Moats in January. He started a macro flower photography club, and he's going to have Zooms once a month if you belong to that club. And the first one in January, I'm going to be doing along with him, and we're going to talk about shooting indoors over the winter. And believe me, I need that where I live because I do a lot of still life, and I do bring my flowers indoors and shoot them with window light. And both of these were shot that way. The one on the right, I actually had some little fairy lights in the background, and it has a lot of blur from a Lens Baby, and that's what you see the bokeh on the top half, the way I focused that. Those were those lights. I'm shooting it wide open at f2.5, so it's giving me all the bokeh from the fairy lights. So I'll kind of do some fun things like that in the winter when I'm indoors, and of course all the blur that I love. So here's another one on sharpness. This is a bourgeois concept. Henri Cartier-Bresson said that. So, and of course, back then, their cameras weren't what we have today. And so a lot of their images, if you look at a lot of his images in particular, they are not sharp. They are very soft. There's movement in it. What we would call ICM today. So it was probably a combination of an ICM and just how his camera handled the shutter speed. So, but they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. So that was an image of my daughter. It was a 30-second exposure on the right that you see. Lens Baby has a pinhole optic. They no longer have it anymore, but they did have it. And believe it or not, it's an f/161 f-stop. So that tells you that my shutter speed had to be very, very long. It was 30 seconds there just to get it that light. It was shot indoors with window light, and I had her one exposure, and I had my daughter move during the exposure and put her sunglasses on. And it's very, very soft because that's what a pinhole optic looks like. So not a lot of, there's detail there, but it's very soft, like an old time camera. The point for me shooting with that, I was beta testing it when they put it out, and that was one of my beta test shots. And I had so much fun with it, thinking back to the days when people shot like that, at the turn of the century. And I hate saying turn of the century because that would be 2000. When I always think of turn of the century, I'm actually thinking back to 1900 still. Isn't that crazy? So, and the image you see on the left side is my granddaughter. It was shot with a Lens Baby. Lens Babies are not lenses that if you are a person that wants to shoot like birds in flight, that's not going to be your choice. So they're not, because everything's autofocus. So you've got, you have to focus in the camera. So nothing is auto for you. And that was, I always put that in there. She is in high school now, a senior in high school. So that tells you how old this photo is. We were in a park in the fall and she was on a swing and I probably took 80 images of her that day with that lens baby. That was one of the very old lens babies. They're much better now. But, and I had that little disc that you see, the curly Q disc in the back, the swirly one, which made all that bokeh go crazy in the back. And it's not sharp. Even her face isn't sharp, but it's sharp enough for me. And here's the thing about that image. That long ago that I took that and we were in the park like an hour, I can remember that like it's today. I remember us being there. I remember her on that swing coming forth and me snapping all of those pictures and her laughing. And I probably would not have those memories with one of my autofocus lenses because I would have taken 3 or 4 or 5 photos and that would have been it. But the fact that I spent that time there with her in the field and the joy that came out of it is just another thing that I love about lens babies. So as cameras and lenses and the ability to change pixels and software improve at such a fast pace, we could begin to draw a line between the perfect image we've been told will create excellence and those which express what we see and feel. And so I'm going to encourage all of you, if you don't shoot like this, try it. Just go out and try doing a shoot through. If you have a long lens, shoot it wide open and reach up into a tree. I spend an hour in that tree. That's my daughter's Japanese maple in the fall. And I go out there and I shoot when the light is low in the sky and the sun is starting to set and it's coming through the leaves. And because that tree, the leaves have a low profile towards the ground, I can stand there and actually shoot through. I don't have to reach up with my lens. I'm at eye level. I can shoot through and I can get one thing in focus like this branch here and let everything else go into blur. And it's a very painterly image, but standing there and shooting through, and that is letting some of the foreground foliage go into complete blur as I'm reaching through a hole in the tree to focus and get a shoot through look like that. And as I say, it usually works best with a little bit longer lens. And it doesn't have to be a lens baby. It could be your regular lens and you could use, regular focus with it. Doesn't have to be manual, but with my macros, I always use manual and just shoot like that and see what you can do. Even if it's not the thing that you do, the joy, the fun, the colors and everything when you, and you feel like you're in a rut, that's something I would recommend you go try just for fun. It doesn't have to be leaves in a tree. It could be flowers. Shoot through a group of flowers. And it's just a fun way to create a swath of beautiful color and blur. And then the image on the right, another thing that I like to do is wait for sunset. I shoot a lot at sunset around here in the summer with my flowers. That was actually shot as the sun was going down on the right side. It's a Nigella seed. And it was taken with one of my vintage lenses, which is known to have what they call bubble bokeh, but I sprayed it with water and you can't see it, but directly behind that seed is the sun going down in the sky. So I had to adjust my shutter speed and go a little bit brighter to capture that, but not too bright because I wanted the background to go all dark like that. And so I was out there probably a half an hour with that, holding it in my hand and shooting with my lens in the other hand, holding it up so it was just in the right spot in front of the sun ball that was going down in the sky. So it's really fun to shoot at that time of day for me. So here's another one. Don't shoot what it looks like, shoot what it feels like. David Allen Harvey wrote that. So this was taken with my Lens Baby Twist. Lens Baby makes a series called Omni. And if you don't have them or you don't know much about them, check them out. But even if you don't, if you have any crystals laying around, like, let me see if I can get this to show here. This is one of them. It's a color-coded crystals. Sometimes people have them from an old chandelier, or they have glass from something else that has facets in it like that. Lens Baby makes a whole system with these. And what you do with them is you put them near the edge of the front of your lens, and you can twist them and twirl them, and the sunlight comes through your lens, hits the colors in that crystal, and it will give you all beautiful, a color wash like you see here, or it can give you streaks of light also like you see here. That's another thing that I love to do when I feel like I'm in a creative rut. I can grab one of those and go outside. It usually works best on a sunny day. I can grab my Lens Baby, and I have a beautiful abstract image, a color wash added to it with the help of one of those Omni crystals. They also make these films that you can see here in the whole system. If you go on their website, they have a whole system of all these different things they use to shoot with. So I love them for being creative and just helping me get away from it all and go outside and have some fun. So at some point, we may decide to step out of our comfort zone and embrace the reason we have a camera in hand, whatever that may be. So where will your journey take you? These are just 3 images. The one in the middle was shot with my regular nifty 50 millimeter lens. Was probably shot at about f5.6. I do a lot of still life. That was a still life that I light painted. After it got almost dark in the room where I still have a little bit of light coming through my window, but I'm using a flashlight to light paint that. I've been experimenting with that more and more and just kind of teaching myself a little bit. So I've got a background there. And when I'm light painting, I'm actually got this flashlight and I'm moving it around, moving it around. You never just hold it in one spot or you'll get a hot spot. If you know anything about light painting at all, it's very experimental. I'm not super great at it. There is, let me see, I'm trying to think who the photographer is. I think last name is Harold Ross. If you want to learn more about light painting, I would say he is the premier light painter photographer. He does mostly still life, but just go to his website sometime and look, your jaw will drop. He's out of Pennsylvania, and his work is just stunning, especially if you're, I hate to say especially if you're a guy, but a lot of the things that he shoots in still life are beautiful old tools and things like that. Bench presses, I don't know what they're all called, but these wonderful old vintage tools. And my jaw drops when I look at them. They're absolutely stunningly beautiful, the light that he captures when he does his light painting. It's just really, again, it's very inspirational to me. So I'm going to kind of try it. Someday maybe I'll take one of his classes if I'm able to. So again, these are just some images. That's actually taken the right one. The one you see on the right side was taken with my Lens Baby twist. That gives you a swirly bokeh around the edges. It was taken about 5 years ago when I first moved into the house that we're in now. And the first snowfall, if you look closely, you can see the snow starting to come down. And I brought my lantern outside, and you can see how the twist handled all those branches in the trees. It made it look very ethereal, kind of a little bit spooky. And then all the lighting that was in my street, as the snow was coming down. So again, I'll probably never forget taking that image. I love it. So Lens Babies and other non-traditional lenses have allowed me to photograph without any strict rules attached. This fun type of interactive photography may push you to think in a more creative way and discover something unexpected. And I talked a little bit about that already, that they make you slow down. And there are lots of different Lens Baby optics. They're all a little bit different. The velvets give you that glow. Some of the other optics, like I just talked about, the twist will give you a swirly bokeh. And then like the image you see in the middle, that comes from the Sweet 50. That gives you a sweet spot of focus where you tilt the optic and get one part that's really sharp and let the rest of it kind of go into blur. So it's a very they're very require very much input from you on how you want to use their lenses and optics to sort of tell your story. You know, what part do you want sharp? What part do you want blurry? And you get to create that when you're out in the field and make those decisions for yourself. No two images are ever going to look the same. So here are a couple. This was shot with my Velvet 85 on the left. That lens to me is a flower photographer's dream because it's a longer lens. It has compression. You can reach into gardens, and it has this beautiful glow again, which you control with the f-stop. And I can get an image like that. That was taken on my back deck and out into the yard. So I cannot get a flower image like that with any other type of lens other than a Velvet. But the Velvet 85 I love for the compression. Now I want to show you this. This is a double exposure taken with my double glass 2, which is another optic, and I love that optic. And if you look at it closely, you can tell it's a double exposure. You can see this flower here and the secondary one here. So I've been doing a lot of double exposures or triple exposures when I'm out in the field. I think they're super creative. The ICMs, I do a little bit of those where you're actually moving, and I've even tried blending them both, doing one in ICM and then one a straight shot, but a double exposure or something like that, just to get a different feel, especially with flowers. As you can see here with the double exposure, I put my focus on this one and then kind of moved it a little bit in the second exposure, which allowed it to look as though there's more petals there. So I think it's just a really creative and fun way to shoot. Again, another thing if you feel like you're in a rut to go out and experiment with. The image on the bottom was taken with my double glass 2, but I added a texture from my Helios 44-2 vintage lens. That lens, some of you, if you're into shooting vintage lenses, you probably would know that lens. It's kind of the first one everyone's getting when they're trying vintage lenses. You can still get it fairly cheap. You just need to get an adapter that will go onto your camera because they all have an M42 mount, and you need to get an adapter that goes from M42 to whatever camera mount you have, which me, it's Nikon, so it would be M42 to Nikon. So, but what you're seeing in the background, let me go to my next slide. Take a look at that image. By the way, I didn't even know that spider was on there when I was taking that image. I was focusing more on this part of the image because it's manual focus, and for some reason I did not notice that spider until I got it up on my computer and saw it there, and I'm like, oh, bonus, you know. So but I looked at it, and this is my original image that you see here on the upper left. And that's how it came out of the camera. Well, I did a little bit in Lightroom with you know, exposure adjusting that because everything I bring into Lightroom. And this was my image that I took at a different time, probably a couple years ago, with my Helios 44-2. And you can see that was taken slightly out of focus. What that does is it creates like a vortex of swirls. And that's because in that particular Helios, I have reversed the front glass element on it, which it would take me a little while longer than what I have here to explain how to do that, but I did it myself. Wasn't hard. You have to unscrew 2 little screws, flip the piece of front glass on it, put it back on, screw it back on, and it gives you this, it's known for its swirly bokeh, but it makes the swirl go in a different way. So it's even more crazy. So what I did with that is I went out and I took a whole bunch of textures like this, slightly out of blur, you know, out of focus, a little bit blurry, but still had some of the bokeh that you see here that it creates. And I've got them in all different colors. And once in a while, I'll take an image like this flower you see here, and I'll say, what can I do with that in post-processing that might bring that to life a little more? And I so remember that particular image with those colors. And so what I did is I dropped, I brought it into Photoshop, and on another layer, I added the Helios 44-2 texture that I took, and I just blended them together with a layer mask. And that was what I came up. And to me, I mean, I like it originally the way it's shot, but I think it elevated it a little bit more with the color and the bokeh. And it so happened that the colors in that bokeh went perfectly with that flower. The yellows matched up perfect. I didn't have to do anything. That was how it was. So I think it's fun to go into your post-processing with some of your work after you have it on a day where you can't get outside to shoot it all and just play. And I enjoy post-processing. I know some people don't, but I think it's a fun thing for me. I don't usually go crazy like that and add backgrounds like that, but I do it once in a while. The reason I don't is because most of my lens babies give me these beautiful backgrounds like you see on the left side here. This is another one taken with that Helios out of camera. That's what it does. There was no background applied to that. There were yellow flowers in the distance, and it just gave that beautiful kind of swirly background on it. And then, of course, that Velvet 85 is got the most beautiful velvety glow for roses. I think it's my favorite lens ever. And that you see on the bottom was taken with that Omni crystal, where I let the sunlight hit that rose. And I shot that indoors. The sun was coming through my window. I shot that indoors in the winter. So I get my flowers from Trader Joe's, so I can keep them coming all winter long. So I would ask you, do you have a photographic style? People have said to me sometimes, oh, you have a certain style. And I say, I do? Well, maybe I don't recognize it, or maybe it just sort of evolved. When I go back and look at things that I was first shooting 15 years, 20 years ago, and I look at how I'm shooting now, yeah, it's evolved. First and foremost, because I started using lens babies more in my work, and vintage lenses. But besides that, there's a certain style that I like when I do still lifes. I like the dark and moody, and I also like that with my flowers as well. It seems like there's no in between for me. I'm either going dark and moody or super bright, lots of colors. So a style is really your evolution in your personal photographic journey. It's what resonates with your personal preferences. So it can change over time, just as I explained. I think mine has. Mine has like dark and moody or ethereal kind of painterly use of light, creative lens choices, blur textures, in camera techniques, and certain subjects. Like I really do a lot of flowers and still life now, and I still stick with landscapes. I like landscapes a lot still too. So, but it takes time to discover your style, lots of experimentation. So you have to be open to trying new things and techniques. And sometimes when you learn something new, what I have done is gone back and reshot it. For example, my landscapes. I did a whole thing where all the landscapes I have ever taken around the Buffalo area, I brought my Velvet 28 out and reshot all of them with that. Just because that has a different look and feel. So, you're always ever evolving in how you see and look at things. And of course, other photographers for me have definitely influenced how I see my photography and things I want to experiment and try with. So some ways to get past a creative rut and find joy. And I'm going to go through these real quickly without expectations. That's my grandson who just started college this year. He he was 3 there. He used to love to make these crazy faces, but I just thought that went. Getting past the creative rut, it just resonated with me, that picture of him. So in the winter, one of the things I do is I do this glass photography that I've done. I have a presentation on that. That's what I was telling Gary. I'm going to be doing that for hunts sometime in the early spring, or I forget when we decided it was. It's not set in stone yet, but it's going to probably be in early spring. How I do that, it's all done indoors. And and it's very easy to do, but I have a presentation that explains it all. I tell you everything and how I did it perfectly, and you don't need a studio to do it. So, and then that's just another thing that I have fun doing indoors. I'll do macro. I've always loved macro. So that's actually fishing line that I hot glued to a glass, the edges of a small glass, like a rocks glass. And then I sprayed it with water, and I put it over a light LED light that was changing color. So I'm shooting down on it, and that is the light down in the bottom of the glass where it's sitting on top of this light that's reflecting upward through the water drops. So that was just, and I actually saw someone that did something similar on YouTube, and I thought, I'm going to try that. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then, as I already mentioned, new ways to see old favorites. I went through Buffalo, and this is actually the Peace Bridge that goes from Buffalo, and that's Canada that you see across the border. That's probably our biggest bridge. We have 3 bridges that cross over into Canada. That's our biggest and has the most traffic. I tend to always try to go over the Rainbow Bridge when I go over to Canada. It's less crowded. That's the one that's right over the falls, like you physically drive over the falls on that one. So that's been one of my little projects to go back and reshoot all the things that I shot in my early years using my Velvet, just because I love the glow and the color that that lens imparts. So, and because I'm a Lens Baby Trailblazer ambassador, I want to have, you know, a gallery of images taken with that lens. So it's one of my favorites. This is actually Niagara Falls. So completely different look shot with that lens, the Velvet 28. It's a more soft, ethereal kind of glow. If you ever come to Niagara Falls, or if you haven't been here, they light up the falls. Usually on Friday night, the light comes across, that's Canada that you see across the way, comes on the falls. This is taken on the American side where I'm looking towards Canada. That's the Rainbow Bridge right there that you see that I was just talking about that gets you over to Canada. And this is actually a tower that you can go across, walk up on, and I kind of have vertigo, so I have a hard time doing it, but I force myself to. And then you can see the Horseshoe Falls, which would be to the left of here. That's not in this shot, but you can get some really pretty pictures of the falls. Shooting in winter is a whole nother thing. I go down there. That is not for the faint of heart. Let me tell you, it's freezing down there in the winter because of all the mist, but it's beautiful. Not as many tourists either. So here's another thing that I did this year and I had never done. And I did it with a couple of my friends. One of them moved to North Carolina and he was coming back into town, and he said, let's get together with this other friend of mine. So there were 3 of us, and where do you want to go shoot? Let's shoot somewhere fun. And I said, let's go, because they just redid our Buffalo Albright Knox Museum. They millions of dollars they put into it and redid, added a whole new wing onto it. And I had not been to that part of it. So I said, let's go there. And they both shoot Lens Babies as well. So I said, what I'm going to do is bring 1 Lens Baby lens with me and 1 traditional lens, which was my 50 millimeter. So that's what I did. No more than that, just those 2. And we went in there and we shot double exposures. And that was the most fun. I'll show you that on the next slide. But that one, these were taken with my traditional 50 millimeter. They don't allow a tripod in there, so I had to handhold everything. But go to a museum. I'm telling you, if you ever get into a slump in your photography, go to one of your local museums and just take a couple of your lenses in there and shoot. And I'll show you what I did with some of the doubles. That particular image on the upper left was taken with my Lens Baby, which gives you this selective sharp focus in one spot and blur in the rest. So it wasn't an ICM, it was not camera movement. I was focusing on the center of the railing there, the steps, and all of a sudden this young fellow walked up the steps and got right into the center where I had my focus going, and I snapped it, and I got 1 good shot of him walking. And it's not sharp all the way through. It's not supposed to be. So I was pretty happy with that, but that's all in 1 shot in camera with my double glass. And the other 2, of course, are sharp all the way through with my 50 millimeter. But then the fun began. My friends and I were going through and doing double exposures on all of the artwork in there. So like we would take 1 shot of something and then overlay it with a shot of something else, and just to see what we could get with it. For example, on the lower right, there was this bronze kind of statue sculpture that was laying on the floor. And you can see it's supposed to be a woman grabbing her knees, and she has tree branches for feet. So I took a picture of that for my first exposure, and then I went over to some sort of crazy, really bright colored, it almost looked like a graphic print on the wall. It was quite large, and there was kind of, if you look closely here, there was like a sofa here in the print, and I thought, well, I'm going to try to overlay her on that sofa, and she didn't quite fit, as you could see. But it was the whole point that we were just having so much fun in there, using our straight lenses, my 50 millimeter and my double glass 2. This was taken with my double glass 2. My friend Scott here happened to be walking right through my frame as I was standing in another doorway, and perfect. I got a shot of him. I didn't plan it. He came walking through and was focusing on something there, and I got that shot of him, and it was just perfect. It tells so much about how he is when he's out shooting. So I love that image. So do that. Go to a museum. We were there about 3 hours. I had the most fun that you could ever think of having. I thought it was such a fun thing to do. So another thing you could do is consider creating a yearly photo project. My yearly photo project for me, the last 4 years, has been what you see here. I grow a lot of flowers in my garden, and I do a lot of flower photography. So what I do at the end of the year is I gather just before, like sometime in October, when I know the coldest snap is coming, before they're all, done. And I snip a bunch of them, and I put them in what I call a flat lay. I use a baking cooling rack that has a grid of squares in it, and I can cut the stems really short, push it through the grid, and that holds them all in place so they don't wobble around. And then I take it out on my deck, and I lay it on the deck, and I stand over it with my 50 millimeter lens, and I shoot downward on it, and that's a flat lay. So this was the one taken, let me see, this year on the left. I took this in October. This was taken the year before. So it's kind of a fun thing for me to do from year to year and remember what I grew. And just arranging them all together. It takes me about an hour to arrange them all, so I have to cut them and kind of arrange them before they wilt or whatever. But it's just been a super fun project for me. So consider doing a yearly project like that, whatever it may be, whatever your interest is. Or maybe you could do a seasonal landscape project where you go to one particular spot where you live and take a picture of it in winter, fall, summer, spring, that same area, just to get a different feel and a different look. It would be beautiful framed on your wall to have all 4 seasons. But those are just some ideas of doing a project. And then I would advise you, slow down and spend time to connect with your subjects. It doesn't matter if it's a flower or whatever it is. Challenge yourself to try something new that you may not have considered before. Could be a lens baby lens, or it could be shooting all manual on one of your autofocus lenses. Slow down. Or putting a close-up filter on one of your regular lenses. You could do that to get close with macro. And change it up a little bit, or an extension tube, which I do that a lot with my lens babies to get closer. And then take one subject like this and shoot it in different ways in different light. So this was the same subject. This is a succulent that was in bloom, and I shot it with a whole bunch of different lenses. You can see them all listed here. So I got a different feel and a different look, shooting it some straight on at the blossom, some from sideways, some stepping back and getting the whole plant in focus, and then coming really forward and doing it maybe in some different light with a different background. So that's a fun project to do, or something fun to do. And you could even try that indoors, depending on what you use for your background. But I like the dark and moody. I shoot a lot of that. So here's just some more. Challenge yourself to use selective focus, blur, or try an ICM, which is in-camera movement. So you'll need to make sure that you have maybe at least 1/15 of a second. Start with that, or 1/12 of a second if you're doing, say, a plant or something. It could be anything. You could go down into a cityscape and try that, blur with camera movement. And try that if you haven't tried it. It's very refreshing. You may have to shoot 50 frames before you get something you like, but again, you're out experimenting, and that's part of the thing that's refreshing for you too. So, my list, something you don't normally explore. I need to get out of cityscapes more. I don't do that enough, and I love it. I love that sort of buildings, architecture, light, people milling around, and I would love to go out and do some more ICM with that, or even double exposures in a cityscape. Shooting through, and then selective focus, how little you can imagine to make it work. Spend time with your subject and your background. Background's always important. Mix it up with black and white and color. This was an ICM, by the way, taken with my velvet on the left side, bottom, where I moved the camera in a swirly motion. And I think I had maybe probably about 1/15 of a second when I shot that, and you would focus on one central part and then move the camera, because I'm looking down on that, and move the camera in a quick sort of swirly motion. And again, I had to take a lot of them to get one that I liked, because it's very experimental. And then again, I talked about this. These are just some more examples of doing a shoot through in a tree. I share that because it's one of my favorite things to do. I love trees. And no matter where I go, the leaves are always different, the colors of the leaves in different seasons, the branches intermingling with the leaves. And, you know, nothing that you see in these images, that's how the colors were in those leaves. That is a Japanese maple that was taken with my Lens Baby Velvet, which adds that beautiful Lens Baby blur sort of velvet overlay with it. And it really enhances color as well, which is another reason I like it. So, and then do another project or series approaching a subject you haven't considered before. The reason I say that is that it wasn't until about 4 years ago that I ever considered doing cactus or succulents. We have a cactus room in our, in our botanic gardens here. And I like to go in there just to get warm in the winter, but I've never spent a lot of time in there. And I decided about 3 years ago that I was going to start spending time in there and using my Lens Baby, selective focus, and blur, and all of those things. And the thing that I found out about succulents and cactus is I never realized they have that much color in them. I mean, when you take a quick glance at them, you don't really notice it. You might notice some color, but when I really started shooting them and spending a lot of time with them, it was amazing to me, especially if I'm on a tripod and I'm using a little longer shutter speed, the colors that would come forth. Even when I wasn't using a long shutter speed. But I was amazed by that. I was amazed by the graphic nature and the way I could do graphic images. All of these look rather graphic. If you look at them, the way the petals are, the way everything lines up, you can shoot an overhead, you can come in from the side. There's so many things you can do. And it was something I had never really thought about. And now I'm hooked on these. So I was out in Arizona 3 years ago, and they have a beautiful Arizona in Phoenix. They have the botanic garden there, and it's full of cactus. I just had a ball. So bokeh, backlight, sunset, and I talked about that a little earlier. That particular image on the right, I like to go out at sunset and shoot into the sun when it's coming down and it's eye level. That's my challenge. That's what I love, the color, the light, the way it will make water glow. So that's just a fun thing I like to try. And it's easy. I can go out at sunset. I see it coming down in my backyard and I'm out there. And these are just some other images, examples with different lenses that I've taken. And I kind of embrace the blur and the color and the warm light coming through. And it's just a fun way to shoot. It's a little creative. You look, especially if you're looking at plants, they don't have to be flowers. I love all the grasses in fall, and when I can shoot when the sun is coming down. Those are one of my favorite things to go do. And winter is colors, when they dry out in this flower, they get very intense before they turn brown. And it's a very large flower, a hydrangea. So it's an ideal subject for you to practice taking triple exposures and put your focus in one spot and move the camera in a swirl. This is, I believe, a 3 exposure that I did, a triple. Yeah, so that's another thing that I tend to play with. It's nice to have a large subject for that, which this flower is. So, and then I would say I'm getting near the end of my presentation here. The person behind the camera is the only one who gets to decide and make the choice of what is art. Those choices become part of a creative process, which can include a new technique, a way to bring our vision into focus before, during, or after capture. Taking the time outside to explore your surroundings with your camera lets you savor each moment in nature. Those moments when you let go of expectations are the ones you will remember, whether you capture a perfect or imperfect image. That's so important. Get out there and shoot. And, you know, don't go out with expectations. Let them go and play. And the painter constructs, the photographer discloses. Susan Sontang. That is a double exposure. It was taken during COVID, the very first day of shutdown in COVID. I went to the wildlife refuge with my husband and my dog and shot that image, and I will never forget it. I will never, ever forget that image. It was just the time frame, everything about it, the light and the walk that we went through on that day as shutdown began. And everyone was so worried about COVID and what was going to happen. And I look at that image and I see the light in the horizon, and it told me everything is going to be okay. That's how I viewed it when I got it up on the screen when I got home. You know, that I think everything's going to be okay, that we're going to get through this. So a couple more things I just want to talk about and then I'll be done. And that's that book called Still Like an Artist by Austin Kleon that I recommended in the beginning of my presentation. He says in this, he has some quotes, and one of them is this: art is theft. Pablo Picasso said that, okay? Keep in mind, this book is where do ideas come from? They come from inspiration. So he says, steal like an artist. So artist theft, Pablo Picasso. Then T.S. Eliot said, immature poets steal, bad poets deface what they take. Good poets make it into something better, or at least something different. The good poet welds his theft into a whole of feeling which is unique, utterly different from which it was torn. So every artist gets asked the question, where do you get your ideas? The honest artist answers, I steal them. First you figure out what's worth stealing, then you move on to the next thing. So what he's saying there is everything that started out as one thing gets shown to us in a little bit different way. As the years go by, as the centuries go by, we all put our little twist on it. But the inspiration came from somewhere. And we all just sort of steal from it, maybe not even realizing it, but rework it ourselves into something that resonates with us. So nothing is original. What a good artist understands is that nothing comes from nowhere. All creative work builds on what came before. Every new idea is just a mashup or a remix of one or more previous ideas. It's right there in the Bible. There is nothing new under the sun. This is a NASA space image. It's called All Eyes on the Oldest Recorded Supernova. You can go on the NASA website. You can download their images for free. We as taxpayers paid for them. You can get large size files and download them and use them however you want to use them. And that is an image that I downloaded from the NASA space flight. And when I was taking images of smoke plumes at one time, then that's what I did with that image that you see on the left side. It says a new world rising. That's what I created with that. So it's a mashup of something very old, the oldest supernova, and I put my own spin on it. And that's just another one that I took.
Sonny, you want to kill?
Do I have a question?
No question.
We're done.
Thank you very much, Jerry. It was a wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Time, Jerry.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yep, thank you. It was interesting.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
I'm Dave McFarland. I've had the privilege to be the photographer for the Naples Christmas Boat Parade that's going to be held this Saturday. I think the first time Karen Reagan and I brought our spouses, we turned it into a date night. I'm looking for 1 or 2 photographers who want to shoot that tonight, this coming Saturday. Make a date out of it. Go to dinner, get there in time to photograph the mayor, the police chief, the city council, county commissioners, and then the boat parade starts at 6 o'clock. And it's a fun event. It's a very low pressure event. The people in the boats have been drinking for 2 hours before they drive by. The judges, I think, have joined them. It's just a very, very low pressure fun event. So if anybody's interested, raise your hand or come over and see me at the top right-hand table. Oh, they've got a big spread of food out there. There's free drinks for the photographers, free food. It's a big deal. You're in the elite section of the Naples hierarchy.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Pardon me?
Where will you be?
You will be right with the judges. You're gonna be front row center, right? You'll be right with the judges. Oh, it's at the Naples dock, the city dock.
Oh, at the city. Yeah.
City dock, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. All right, very quickly, we're going to show you a short slideshow of our outing to Tarpon Springs, so we can start that now. Sponge capital of the world, Tarpon Springs, Florida. I hope you enjoyed that. All right, we'll take a break now. So enjoy the food and take some time to relax. 10 minutes.
Said something, Tom, that you did here. Told her for 45 minutes to an hour at most. She went an hour and 15 minutes.
Good, it's good.
Okay, everybody, we're running way over tonight, so we're gonna have to take a seat, relax, get started with the next portion of our evening. So next up, Richard Tyndall, the great Richard Tyndall.
Him. Sliders on, Brian.
It is an ill will that brings no good. So, the benefit of that illustrious presentation we just shared together is I've got 30 seconds. So in 30 seconds, there is a conference. You're expected to come. It is one of your benefits of membership. Because you belong to this club, it costs you less than it costs me to take my 3 grandchildren to a movie. You get a discount that almost pays all of your dues if you come to the conference. You'll enjoy it. It's neat. Everybody has fun. It's not that far away. So please, please, please have a wonderful holiday, and I'll see you after.
All right, next up is the Christina Skibicki monthly theme slideshow.
you.